That little black lens over your front door is supposed to be your guardian, a silent protector watching your home, promising peace of mind. It's a digital eye meant to keep the dangers of the outside world outside. But what happens when that shield doesn't just fail? What happens when it becomes a window for the wicked? Abrupt title card with eerie music's sting for 7 people. That nightmare became a reality. From company employees spying on their most private moments to hackers who used their own security system to terrorize them. These are the true stories that will make you want to unplug everything. Story 1, The Invisible Watchers. Our first story is about a betrayal so deep, it makes you question who you can possibly trust in our modern, connected world. This isn't about some shadowy hacker in a faraway country. This horror came from the inside. It came from the very people who sold the promise of security in the first place. For hundreds of Ring customers, the safety their cameras offered was a total illusion. They had no idea their homes were an open book to any employee with a curious and malicious mind. The Federal Trade Commission, or FTCCC, eventually charged Ring with absolutely egregious violations of privacy. Their investigation revealed that the company had failed to put even the most basic security protocols in place, giving its employees and even outside contractors free rein to access the private video feeds of customers. Imagine a young woman, we'll call her Amanda. She lives alone and puts an indoor Ring camera in her living room and another in the hallway leading to her bedroom. It's for peace of mind, she tells herself. If she hears a weird noise, she can just check her phone. What Amanda didn't know was that for months, a male employee at Ring was systematically accessing her cameras. He wasn't looking for intruders, he was looking at her. The FTC complaint detailed how this one employee viewed thousands of video recordings belonging to at least 81 different female users. He specifically targeted cameras he had labeled with names like master bedroom or bathroom. He watched women in the most intimate spaces of their homes, completely undetected. For months, this voyeurism went on, not because he was some master hacker, but because Ring simply wasn't looking. There were no real safeguards to stop or even detect this kind of access. He was only caught when another employee happened to discover his misconduct and reported him. Think about that. The only thing that stopped this constant silent violation was the conscience of a coworker. The system itself offered zero protection. The FTC found that Ring had been giving this kind of wide-open access to its employees for years, all while marketing their products with slogans like "See your home," "Away from home," often right next to a picture of a camera monitoring a child's bedroom. For Amanda and hundreds of others, the device meant to protect them had become a tool for a predator they had unknowingly invited into their lives. The camera wasn't a guard dog, it was a two-way mirror, and they were on the wrong side of it. The horror wasn't just that someone was watching, it was that the watcher was the one who sold them the lock for their door. Ring was eventually forced to pay $5.6 million in consumer refunds and overhaul its security. But for the victims, the damage was done. The feeling of being watched in your own sanctuary is a ghost that no settlement can ever truly exorcise. Story 2, the May 28th Anomaly. Our next story is a dive into a uniquely modern kind of horror digital gaslighting. It's what happens when you see something terrifyingly wrong with your own eyes, but the company you trust tells you it's all in your head. It all started on one specific date, May 28th, 2025. Across TikTok, Reddit, and Facebook, a wave of panic started to spread among Ring users. People posted urgent warnings, telling everyone to check their accounts, authorized client devices list. What they found was chilling. Under the date of May 28th, dozens of unfamiliar devices were listed as having logged into their accounts. Device name not found: Windows, 11, Chromebook, Safari, a whole legion of digital ghosts that had apparently been given full access to their cameras, completely undetected. For thousands of users, their blood ran cold. They were seeing devices they had never owned, from locations they had never been to. And they hadn't received a single login notification, no two-factor authentication prompt, nothing. It was as if these intruders had just materialized inside their accounts. As the story exploded online, with countless users sharing screenshots of their own haunted accounts, the pressure mounted. Some people reported seeing as many as 17 unknown devices logged in. Finally, Ring issued an official statement. There was no breach, they claimed. The May 28th logins weren't real. It was all just a visual bug. According to the company, a back-end update had caused old, expired logins from phones and computers you might have used years ago to reappear, incorrectly dated to May 28, 2025. They insisted that no unauthorized access had occurred. But for so many users, the explanation felt hollow, even insulting. How could a visual bug explain users seeing device types, like Chromebooks or Windows PCs, that they were certain they had never, ever owned? The company's reassurances felt like a corporate handwave, an attempt to sweep a terrifying possibility under the rug of technical jargon. The horror of the May 28th anomaly wasn't just the fear of being watched. It was the feeling of being told that your own reality is wrong. You see the evidence right there on your screen. You feel that chilling violation. And yet, the authority you're meant to trust just tells you it's nothing, just a glitch. It leaves you in a state of constant doubt, wondering if the real ghosts aren't in the machine, but in the boardroom, where they'd rather call you crazy than admit the truth. Story 3, The Morning Invasion. Security cameras usually capture the boring stuff: the mail carrier, a stray cat, the rhythm of daily life. But sometimes they capture the exact moment that rhythm shatters. This is what happened in a quiet, suburban neighborhood in New Jersey. For one family, a morning in December began not with an alarm clock, but with pure terror. At around 5:30 a.m., while it was still dark and the entire family was asleep, a group of figures appeared on their Ring camera feed. The kind of footage you see on the news that makes your skin crawl. The individuals, who looked like young kids, moved with a disturbing confidence. They walked up to a locked ground floor window and, without hesitating, forced it open. Inside, a family member was startled awake by the sound. By the time they got downstairs, the intruders were already inside, moving through the house like shadows. The Ring footage revealed the full, terrifying scope of the invasion. These burglars weren't just grabbing what was near the door. They moved through the entire home, opening drawers and even entering the very rooms where family members were sleeping just moments before. What would you do, waking up to the knowledge that strangers were walking through your home while you slept, completely vulnerable? The primary targets, police believe, were key fobs for high-end cars parked in the driveway, part of a surge in similar burglaries across the state. In this case, the burglars swiped a watch and the keys to one car, but it was clear they were after a BMW. They left the home, but their audacity didn't end there. As the homeowner looked out the door, he saw them coming back down the block, possibly to try and take more. This wasn't a one-off event. That same morning, at least 2 other homes in the surrounding towns were hit in an almost identical fashion. It was a coordinated, brazen attack. The Ring camera didn't prevent the break-in, but it provided terrifying evidence for the police and a stark warning for the community. It captured the vulnerability. Every homeowner fears that the locks on your doors are just a suggestion to someone determined enough to get inside. The horror of this story is how quiet and intimate it is. The footage doesn't show a loud, violent confrontation. It shows something far more unsettling, the ease with which the barrier between your safe world and the dangerous one outside can be broken. It shows strangers moving through your personal space while you're at your most defenseless. The family was physically unharmed, but the psychological scar of knowing someone stood over you while you slept is a wound that takes much longer to heal. Story 4: The Weaponized Welcome. A front door camera is supposed to be a deterrent, a warning to criminals that they're being watched. But in the hands of a truly malicious person, that camera can be twisted into something else. A weapon, a stage for a terrifying performance, and a tool to bring armed chaos right to your doorstep. This is the story of how a Ring doorbell became an instrument for swatting. It all centered around a 23-year-old man from Racine, Wisconsin named Kaya Christian Nelson. In November 2020, Nelson and his co-conspirators went on a nationwide swatting spree, and hacked Ring cameras were their weapon of choice. Their method was disturbingly simple. First, they'd get access to a victim's email account, then see if that person used the same password for their Ring account. Once inside, they didn't just have the camera feed, they had control. Picture this in a quiet home in Oxnard, California. A family is going about their evening, totally unaware they've been targeted. Nelson, sitting miles away in Wisconsin, has taken over their Ring account. He uses his own phone to make a fake 911 call, pretending to be a child inside the house claiming his father has a gun. To make it worse, a co-conspirator makes a second call, claiming to have heard gunshots. Within minutes, the street is swarming with police cars, lights flashing, armed officers believing they are walking into a life or death situation. Surround the home. They order the terrified and confused family to come out with their hands up, clearing them from the house at gunpoint. And as this nightmare unfolds, Nelson is watching the whole thing leave through the family's own Ring camera. But he isn't just watching, he's participating. Using the camera's two-way talk feature, he starts taunting and threatening the police officers who are risking their lives based on his lie. The very device meant for security is now broadcasting threats against law enforcement, making a dangerous situation even more chaotic. To top it off, Nelson's group would often live stream these events on social media, turning a family's terror into their own twisted entertainment. This wasn't a one-time thing. Nelson targeted homes across the country in West Covina, California. They made a similar call, forcing another family out of their home at gunpoint while they watched and jeered through the doorbell. The goal of swatting is to sow chaos and fear. And by weaponizing the victim's own security cameras, Nelson added a cruel, invasive layer to the torment. He turned their front porch into a public stage for terror. Kaya Nelson eventually pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 44 months in federal prison. But his case is a horrifying example of how our connected devices can be turned against us. It shows the threat isn't always someone breaking in. Sometimes it's about someone bringing a violent, armed, and completely mistaken force crashing down on your front door. The stories you're hearing are not works of fiction. They are documented realities that expose the dark side of our connected world. If you find this content compelling and want to see more investigations into true, unsettling events, take a moment to like this video and make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. The darkness has many forms, and we're here to shine a light on all of them. Now, let's get back to the horror. Story 5. The Voice in the Nursery. Of all the promises a security camera makes, none is more sacred than the protection of our children. We put these devices in their rooms as digital guardians to watch over them while they sleep. We trust them. But for several families, the trust was shattered in the most horrific way imaginable when hackers turned these guardians into monsters. In North Mississippi, Ashley LeMay bought a Ring camera for her 3 daughters' room to give herself peace of mind while she worked night shifts. One evening, her 8-year-old daughter, Aliza, heard a strange noise in her room. Then, a man's voice trickled out of the camera speaker. The chilling recording captured everything. The voice claims to be Santa Claus. Alyssa, confused and scared, says he doesn't sound like Santa. The voice then turns sinister, encouraging the little girl to misbehave. You can do whatever you want right now, it says. You can mess up your room. You can break your TV. The terror in Alyssa's voice is heartbreaking as she screams for her mom. The hacker had been watching them, waiting for the moment the children were alone. Ashley LeMay later said she couldn't even finish watching the video of her own daughter's torment. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a wave of hacks exploiting weak security on Ring accounts. In Forney, Texas, a family was coming home when their 9 and 11-year-old children ran from the house screaming. A hacker had accessed their cameras and began shouting profanities, racial slurs, and threats, telling the children they were going to be killed. The family's neighbor, hearing the screams, grabbed his gun and ran next door, thinking a violent home invasion was in progress, only to realize the threats were coming from the camera itself. The children were so traumatized, they were afraid to sleep in their own beds. The FTC's investigation into Ring found that the company's failure to implement basic security, like multi-factor authentication, allowed hackers to easily take control of approximately 55,000 customer accounts using passwords stolen from other data breaches. Ring's public response was often that this wasn't their fault, but the fault of users reusing passwords. While technically true in many cases, that offered zero comfort to families whose children were being taunted by disembodied voices in the middle of the night. The horror here is absolute. It is the ultimate violation of a child's sanctuary. The monster under the bed was no longer imaginary. It was real, it was watching, and it could speak. It turned a symbol of protection into a source of unspeakable trauma. Story 6, The Buried Truth. Sometimes the most terrifying story isn't a sudden, violent event. It's a slow burn realization that you have been systematically deceived by a system you were told to trust. This story isn't about a single hack. It's about a betrayal that was written into the fine print. When you buy a security camera, you assume the video it records is for your eyes only. You might share access with a spouse, but you believe you are in control. What most Ring customers didn't know for years was that this was fundamentally wrong. Their private videos from their living rooms, hallways, and even bedrooms were being watched by human eyes they knew nothing about. According to a bombshell complaint from the FTC, Ring had been using its customers' private video recordings for years to train its algorithms, all without getting proper consent. And this wasn't just raw data being fed to a machine. This involved extensive human review of private footage. Real people, employees, and contractors were given access to video clips of your life to help the company's AI learn to do things like tell a person from a passing car. The company's justification for this was buried deep in its terms of service. In the fine print, Ring claimed it had the right to use recordings for product improvement and development. This vague language was the only notice customers got that their private lives were being used as a training ground. The company failed to take any real steps to tell customers about this human review process until 2018, long after the practice had started. What does that mean in real life? It means a private conversation on your porch, a moment with your child in the living room, or even a video from an indoor camera pointed at your bedroom could have been viewed and analyzed by a stranger at Ring to improve their tech. The FTC investigation revealed that Ring's approach to privacy was so lax that it prioritized rapid growth over the fundamental privacy of the people using their devices. The horror of this story is its quiet, bureaucratic nature. It wasn't one rogue employee. It was company policy. It was a calculated decision to treat customers' most private moments as a corporate asset to be mined for profit. And it forces us to ask a deeply unsettling question. When you click "I agree" on a legal document you haven't read, what parts of your life are you signing away? Story 7. The Legion in Your Living Room. Our final story is about the fear of the unknown, that unnerving feeling that you are no longer alone in your own account. It's a digital haunting where the evidence of an intrusion is undeniable. Yet, you're left to wonder who or what has access to your life. After all the stories of employees spying, swatting, and hacked nurseries, it's no wonder that users started getting paranoid. Many began noticing something strange in their authorized devices list a crowd of strangers. Multiple unknown phones, tablets, and web browsers, all logged into their account. For many, this became an ongoing source of anxiety, a constant fear that their every move was being monitored. Think of a user, let's call him David. David is meticulous about his digital security. He uses strong, unique passwords and has two-factor authentication on everything, including his Ring. One day, he checks his device list and his stomach drops. He sees 3 devices he doesn't recognize. He immediately removes them and changes his password. But a week later, they're back, or maybe they're new ones. The feeling is no longer a simple security lapse. It's an infestation. It feels like trying to plug a leak in a dam that's cracking in a dozen places. The fear is made worse by the silence. There's no email alert, no security code prompt. These devices just appear like ghosts in the machine. This experience, echoed by countless users online, especially after the May 28th incident, created a persistent atmosphere of distrust. Given the company's history, people found it increasingly difficult to accept reassurances at face value. The trust had been broken too many times. This ongoing problem highlights the fundamental terror of digital age privacy invasion. The intruder leaves no broken window and no muddy footprints. Their only presence is a line of text in a settings menu, a digital fingerprint that proves you are being watched. This constant low-grade paranoia is exhausting. You start second-guessing every motion alert. Is that just a package delivery? Or is it someone testing their access to your feed? The horror of seeing unknown devices in your account is the horror of losing control. It turns a tool of security into a source of profound distress. The stories you've heard tonight are more than just campfire tales for our time. They are documented warnings. They show the chilling intersection of human malice and technological vulnerability. We install these cameras to create a bubble of safety around our homes, to push back against the darkness. But these accounts reveal a terrifying truth sometimes. The darkness finds a new way in. It slips through our Wi-Fi, hides in the fine print of a user agreement, and speaks with a sinister voice through a speaker in our child's bedroom. The little black lens above your door sees everything. But the most important question will always be who else is looking. The next time you get a motion alert on your phone, you might think twice. You might just wonder who is looking back.